Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Good day, everybody, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's weekly podcast series, The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. PodMatch. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment. Also, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. And also check out Project Truth on our Patreon. Links are in the show notes below. Today, the world's greatest experiment, ending poverty. He has lived on 5 continents, started numerous companies. He's been an illegal alien as a teenager in the Philippines, and has been kidnapped and left on a rock in the middle of the ocean. Maybe not the middle, but somewhere in the ocean. We'll talk about that. Now he's building love farms to help end poverty, creating an exciting new model for giving to change the way we look at charity. Let's welcome to the show for the first time, Aidan Uttinger. Welcome, brother.
Thank you, Paul. Good to be here.
Very, very welcome. Very welcome. Well, we know how it started. Wow. Wow. Okay. Other than the 5 continents, go back. Let's touch in on this in the ocean. How did that happen?
I was actually visiting Thailand, and we went to the full moon party, which was back in those years was like the biggest thing to go to in Southeast Asia. And yeah, I was by myself. I bought a drink of somebody, and next minute I woke up on a boat out in the middle of the ocean. Well,
wow.
Like say, not quite the middle, but a few kilometers offshore.
Yeah.
Far enough I couldn't swim, that's for sure.
Whoa. Yeah, that could be pretty scary. Jeez.
Yeah. No, it was an interesting experience, but
Yeah.
I actually woke up on a boat, and then they left me on a rock off the coast. So,
Yikes, man. So this experiment of yours, ending poverty, how did this start for you? What sparked this?
well, the spark was you touched on me being an illegal alien in the Philippines, but I'd run away when I was young, and I'd spun a globe, put my finger on it, and it landed on the Philippines. And I ended up getting taken in by a Filipino family there who essentially, saved my life. And one time when I was sitting out in the backyard with my Filipino dad, I asked him how I could repay him for saving my life. And he told me that when I'm in a position to pay their kindness forward, to do it to somebody. And that was all he was looking for as payment, and yeah. It really stuck with me. It was such a beautifully simple request, but the idea that if I did that, something just hit home with me. I was like, man, if I did that and everyone else did that, it would carry on for eternity and impact countless people. And so I used that moment to make the decision to find a way to pay it forward to as many people as I possibly can while they're still around, so that I can show them that was the seed, if you like, of seed of love that they planted,
Yeah. And your method is like, it's not just a single. This is like a bulk. This is like the bulk method.
Yeah. I like to look for ways that we can do it that way.
Yeah. Wow. So how is this different from other nonprofit charities?
Well, I think that, the more I've sort of learned about the space and the more I've seen what's going on, it just struck me, being an entrepreneur and liking to think outside of the box. I sort of feel like the space of nonprofits and charities hasn't really been it needs a bit more of an entrepreneurial mindset. We tend to do things a bit more like a Band-Aid fix, that whilst there's a ton of great projects out there doing great work, to me, it feels like, is any of these models ever really going to grow fast enough that it can, outgrow the problem itself and we can actually see a solution? Or are we always just putting a dent in it? And so that was really my goal, was try and, and what I think we need to do as a whole all over the world is start to think of different ways, even if they sound a bit, they're going to have to be out of the box, to be honest. But if we want to find a cure for these things, we need to start thinking that way.
Absolutely. Not to get off topic, but it is kind of the topic. Like you said, we got to think outside the box. But not only that, it seems like a lot of these charities, especially the ones that have been around for a long, long time, they have been infiltrated by these corporations, bought out by these corporations, and are running it like a corporation, where you have, they're taking in millions, if not billions of dollars, and it's going to administrative cost rather than going to the actual reason that they were created to begin with.
Yeah. There's a saying that I heard, which I didn't understand at first when I heard it, given I wanted to start a nonprofit. But I heard someone say that if you want to make money, start a business. If you want to make real money, start a nonprofit. So that's the kind of stuff that is apparently going on in the space, which, I'm probably been a bit naive to. But yeah, we definitely need to start looking at it in a different way.
Yeah. How does this love become the currency of the future?
Well, the idea is really simple, and it's really based on the premise that love, whilst we may not understand all the dimensionality and all the sort of parts of it and how it necessarily works. I mean, there's so much coming out now around the science of how love can affect your mental health. It can affect your body. It can heal people from a distance. It can change the structure of our water and make plants and trees and plants, grow faster and healthier. And all of this stuff sounded a bit crazy maybe a while ago, but now as, people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Masaru Emoto, who has studied the water and the effects of energy on water, we're starting to really, it's almost like science and spirituality is sort of coming back around and starting to see that, the kind of the same thing come out from two completely different ways. And it just struck me as really, really interesting that we're starting to figure this out. And I just had this thought one day that, if we know the power that love has, and we can see, I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event where people had dissolved, stage 4 cancer tumors, and there was a list of like 86 diseases that people had healed. And it just struck me that it's surely just a matter of time before, as humanity, we really start to understand the power of it and how it works. And at that point, I think that just like we demand or request organic food and pesticide free and things that like socially conscious business and things like that, I feel like there's going to be a point where we actually want to buy love. That's buy food and products and services that are actually infused with love and in a measurable way that can be validated and verified. So I thought that might be a good base for turning love into a currency that could help solve some of the world's biggest problems.
And like you said, the food, it's like you can definitely tell there is an energetic difference between you go to a family-owned restaurant, home-cooked food in a family-owned restaurant compared to a massive chain restaurant, corporately owned restaurant. You could almost feel the difference. It seems like fake food when you go to all these commercial, which is why I stay away from them altogether. So
yeah, for sure, I totally agree, and that's been something that has been touted in cultures all around the world, is that love, you put love into your food and you can taste the difference. But it's a real thing. I think it's the same with music. It's the same with a lot of things, but we've just never been able to measurably quantify the love in something. So people often use it and say that it's got love in it or this or that. But I think that we I think that we could really use a platform or a checks and balances that kind of shows the exact amount of love that's in something that we're consuming.
Yeah. Have like a Geiger counter or something like that every time a transaction happens or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The thing that's trying to figure out the thing that we needed to try and figure out though was, where do you get all this love from to do this experiment? And that was where the nonprofit and the charity model came in. I read an article about how there are more people who have access now to Wi-Fi and smartphones in the third world than there are people who have access to basic clean drinking water and sanitation and enough food and nutrition. So it struck me that we're at a point now where, this is where we've got this workforce of people in the third world that we could actually teach to meditate and send love, and essentially farm the love, giving them a chance to provide and look after their families in areas where they don't have an opportunity to do that right now. And then we send and direct that love back to the companies, products, services, people, causes around the world who want to be the recipients.
Yeah. So what are you currently we know what you're working on. What is currently give us an idea of some of the cultures, countries that you're working with right now that
Well, we're in talks with. There's a lot of places that would like to have a love farm set up, and basically anywhere in the third world where they're struggling and they need to be able to provide. There's an opportunity for it. Initially, our first 2 love farms, we have the first pilot one, which we're setting up now, and we have a couple behind that are in the Philippines, which was obviously really close to my heart because that was where I was when this whole kind of, when I asked how I could repay them for saving my life. So Philippines felt like the right starting point. But we're also talking to people in India, Laos, Cambodia, and Africa, a couple of different countries in Africa. So there's certainly no shortage of places where we can set up love farms. And, the big goal is to prove the power of love to the point where we have people, companies, products all over the world who want to start infusing love into what they're doing. And obviously, every time that happens, we're able to open up more love farms and lift more people out of poverty.
Yeah. What's sad too is it's not only in third world countries now. I mean, we see it all over the world. I mean, here in the United States, it's the level of poverty. It shouldn't be. Of what a country like this and even where you're from and stuff like that. You look at all these countries, it's like there shouldn't be this.
Yeah.
Where do you think the source of poverty is actually stemmed from?
Well, I think the source of every problem, and this has been something I've meditated on, and that really, this is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. I believe the source of every problem, and certainly everyone that I've been able to give, to really give some time and think about it, the source, the problem seems to be a lack of love. Somewhere in the chain, someone is taking more than they need and not keeping enough love there to consider everyone else that's being affected in the transaction. So it felt to me like if we were to build a love-based currency, then we can find where the disparity is, where the imbalances are. And if someone's short of love here, they probably have an abundance of something else. And it could be time, for example, in the love farms, time and energy. But if you can find where the imbalance is, we can figure out where we take the love from this side and deliver it to these guys. And these guys might have money, but they don't have enough love or they don't have enough time. And so you can sort of start to bring the balance back.
Not only that, it seems like it's resources. It seems like there's plenty of resources out there. I mean, there's an endless supply. Like God says, you have an endless supply. I have given you all the resources that you will ever need. But it seems like there's this manufactured scarcity, and we're being led to believe that there's not an endless supply. But if we can change that system a resource-based economy rather than a monetary-based economy, then we would lose the greed, bring in the love and kindness, and we wouldn't need poverty. We wouldn't have poverty.
Yeah. Well, I think, there definitely is enough to go around, and technology now is growing at such a crazy rate. We've got massive advancements in energy, and I'm sure it won't be too long before free energy is a thing, and that opens up doors to farm in different places, and land that wouldn't be able to be used can be irrigated, and there's so many things that can change. There's plenty out there, but we're conditioned to think that there's not enough. So people are always thinking about me, and I really, we have to change that way. We have to change that way of thinking. So the idea with this is really just to be out. If we can prove that these people who have nothing by, the material sort of, measure of it, if we can prove that they have something that is more valuable, or at least as valuable enough to people that have resource, that they could convert that into enough money for them to survive, which is very little. These people are living on very little every day. If we can show the general public or people out in the world that this love has a value to it, then it corrects itself. It corrects itself anyway, because if I can see the proof that if I spend a few dollars a week on farming love, my life is going to get better, then I'm going to do it, right? Yeah. And the default is I'm lifting people out of poverty at the same time. So this is the kind of thinking I think we need to embrace and explore.
Yeah. And
it's exciting, Yeah. I mean, what could love do in massive amounts when it's streamed to your life or your business? I mean, that would be something that I want to be able to see and quantify and show people, because
not only that, it's the reactions too. It's the receivers, the people that are receiving the love. When you see the reactions, it's amazing. And sometimes, like a quick story. When I was living in Shanghai years ago, I spent about a year over there, and I took a quick trip to Cambodia, and decided a quick weekend and stuff like that, just to get out of the snow, because it was cold in Shanghai at that time in January. So took a plane flight to Cambodia, and 95 degrees, almost hardly any humidity. I'm like, this is heaven. I want to move here. When I realized how much the dollar was worth over there, and I didn't realize that until we got to the airport and we were getting ready to leave. Took the tuk-tuk to the airport, middle of the night. Got there, and the tuk-tuk driver was pretty much our tour guide the entire time we were there. We only had one guy. That was it. And I owed my buddy that was with me $50. So I'm like, I tell you what, I'll give him the $50. I'll give him $50. So I gave him $100 bill.
Yeah.
And wow, his reaction, he broke down in tears. It's like, I think that probably fed his family for almost a year. And a quick shout out, Vishay, if you're watching and listening, God bless you, brother. You and your family. Yeah, it's amazing when you see the impact, and he shared the impact too on social media, seeing what that money did for him, his family. It's amazing, and you don't realize. Imagine that little amount of money that might seem minuscule to us, that can feed a family for a long time in some of these other countries. It's
so good to get out there and experience firsthand these places, because most people don't have, they don't have the perspective. They don't really understand how it is. But we have, in our first love farm, we have one guy who has 14 kids. And the last time I was visiting them, they only make money from fishing there. Yeah. Like they catch fish and then they sell it, and that's sort of how they provide for the food, the men fish. And with 14 kids, he had made the equivalent of $30 in the last month. So only 2 of his kids could choose to go to school. They had to choose which 2 could go, because they couldn't afford the transportation costs, which was 20 cents a day to get to school. and his boat had sprung a leak in it when I was there. So it had been off the water for 2 or 3 days. He was super stressed out because that was his only source of income to provide for his 13 kids and one about to be born,
Yeah.
And I found out how much it cost to buy the paint, the epoxy, and the things to fix the boat. It was $60 US, So I bought it, and they just broke down in tears. And I've just recently seen a photo back up of him fishing again, polishing, with his boat all fixed, but $60. And that was enough to get him out providing food for 14 people that wouldn't have had food on the table if it wasn't for him. So it's important to remember how lucky we are, and how small, it doesn't matter how small a contribution you can make, it can really be make a really huge difference to someone in need.
A massive difference. Yeah. Some countries different than others, but when you see the currency difference, like in Cambodia, a kumar is ridiculously inflated. It's like what? Like for $1 US, it's like 10,000 or something like that. It's weird. It's like,
I remember Cambodia was where my money went, probably the furthest of anywhere in Southeast Asia, I think.
Yeah.
But the people have a lot of love in those places too.
I know.
It's really interesting seeing how abundant love is in these poor areas, because my theory is that they learn to support each other. They learn to look out for each other. They learn the value of community and friends and people because you might need to rely on somebody, So it's really something we could learn a bit from these guys, these communities. Like when I started telling the communities about the project that was going to be coming, where they would be able to convert their love into food and water.
Yeah.
Most people, I think in the West at least, would be like, they would have to do a double take on that. It's like, what? Like you're going to be farming love? These people were like, oh yeah, we've seen what it's like over in America at the moment, and what the was. They said, you guys need a lot of love. Not one person in the village questioned what this would do or how the love would work. They got it, and they were like, oh, it's a good idea. We can see how that'll work. Very different mindset.
Yeah. Wow. Before we continue, for those who are watching, you can see the website scrolling on the bottom. But let people, our listeners, or not listeners, well, definitely listeners and watchers or audience, where they can find you.
Yeah, so at theworldsgreatestexperiment.com is the website, and our social channels are at the world's greatest experiment too. That's probably the best way to read a little bit more about the project and see what we're doing and get a bit more information on how it works.
Cool. What are some of the common misconceptions about poverty and about the poverty eradication efforts? Are there any misconceptions out there about it? Well,
I'm sure there are. I haven't really thought too much about that. But what I have, what is abundantly clear to me is that if you take somebody in poverty, and the figures are somewhere between 1 and 2 billion people in the world living below the poverty line, which is about $1.30 a day, I think. It's nothing. So that's like what? It's 20% of the population or something, right? So it's a huge amount of people living this way. One thing that I'm sure of is that if you just feel generous one day and you make a donation and feed somebody, you've done great, and that's awesome, and we need that right now. But from the perspective of the people in poverty and these people that I've been dealing with, what I feel that they're missing, and the thing that people are failing to give the right amount of importance to, that I think it needs if we're going to see a change, is that these people are good people too. They have dreams, they have hopes, they have families. When you treat them like a charity case, it starts to make them feel like that's where they belong, right? Like they just, that's their draw in life, and they just accept that and they wait for the next handout. And if they don't get it, that's it. And I think when you start, the idea that we can start to show them that they have something valuable that's worthwhile, that we want, we don't necessarily even want it, we need it.
Yeah.
They can help people get better. They can help businesses grow. On the other side of the world, us being able to show them and start to report to them how these people were experiencing miracles, or their businesses is growing, or this or that's happening, like that gives them a real sense of, wow, like I did something, I've got something valuable, that they're actually changing the world, and they're in these places where they've never even often left their community because there's just no way to do that. So I think this is something that people miss a lot, and we need to build models that value them as humans and show them that they have something important to give when they think they don't have anything, and their society, their own governments don't support them or anything in most cases. So yeah, that's the big disconnect that I see, is like, if you want them to start to change and come from an empowered place, we need to start to think about how can we empower them, because they are humans and they have incredible qualities and they have a lot of love to give.
How do some of the cultural differences impact some of the approaches, or social impacts and economic developments? I mean, have you seen some of the changes in some of these communities, especially as far as the economy in and of itself approaching these societies into changing it? I mean,
yeah, well, see, that's the goal, is to be able to get enough momentum around this movement to be able to significantly demonstrate to the world and show them how love can function as a currency, but how any communities who are in poverty, who are operating on that currency, are transformed far beyond just having food on the table, right? I mean, they're meditating all day, so they're working on their inner world. They're spreading love. So the energy that comes with that is, it's a really interesting social experiment to see what happens in these communities, right? But we suspect that once we've got enough data, that crime rates will drop, not just there, but in the neighboring areas. We think that mental illness will go right down. We feel like people just feel much, much better on many, many levels. Illness will go down. There's so many things that if you're meditating for hours a day, sending love, and on top of that, you're taking care of your family at the same time, because that's now how they're earning. It's really, we're really going to see a massive, massive shift in the community.
Yeah.
But right now, where we're at is, in order to deploy the entire community, we need to get people in the experiment, businesses who want to be the first in the world to infuse love into their products or services, or people who want to be meditated on day in and day out by joining the experiment. And as we get enough people, we eventually will get to the point, hopefully soon this year, where we can literally, everyone in the community that needs or wants to choose love can have the opportunity to make a full-time income much better than what they can make currently if they are lucky enough to have a job by being a love farmer. So we're starting at the moment we're doing little meditations, like every week we do a little meditation with them, and we're starting to do what we can. We've provided the community with fresh water now. So as of 2 weeks ago, a place where they didn't have access to free drinking water and clean water, they're now getting that for the community simply by sending love. So they're already turning their love into things that are changing their life, which is exciting. But we need to ramp it up so that we can start to get some real data on it. Yeah.
And basic necessities just to stay alive. We shouldn't have to fight for that. It's ridiculous. It's like, why? Just the basic water, exactly. Food. It's sickening to see why with the technology we have today, the world that's, it's just, I don't know. It almost seems like we're in some parallel reality. That there's no reason why we should be going through this at all.
I often think that, and to be honest, these people don't want anything. They really only want what they need. They want their needs right now. They're not even thinking about all the other things, that extra stuff. You know what I mean? They really and my vision for what we're doing is to literally build a model at least, where anyone anywhere in the world living in poverty can at least take care of their needs. If they choose love, right? So if they plug into our system, start generating love, they're at least going to make enough to take care of them and their family's needs. Because if somebody's choosing love every day and they starving and their children are sick and people are dying and they're living in terrible conditions. That's just not right on any level.
Yeah. It's I feel this, that the less you have, the more you have. We shouldn't need all this vanity that we take advantage of in, these first world nations and stuff like that. Why do we have all this? Why do we spend so much money on vanity? If everybody just woke up and like, well, I don't need that. I don't need it. It's just, and just gave all this extra energy, money, love to society, poverty would not exist.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's much more fulfilling. Like I always wanted to do good and give. And obviously we've been working a long time on setting this up, but we're only just starting to now impact the community. But it's such a great feeling to see these guys putting photos up of the community lining up with water bottles and all we had to do was hook up water with the council, because they don't have the money to pay for it. Just incredible to see the difference that you make. So I think people who learn that when you give and you give love freely for someone that needs it, it really comes back to you in so many more ways. Like it's so much more fulfilling than going out and wasting money on something that you think you need. So yeah, I'm really hoping that we can provide a really, really powerful way to demonstrate that to people, because obviously with a normal nonprofit or charity, you give love, and if that's money for whatever it might be, the person who receives it gets the benefit of that, and it's great. You both get something good. But now what we're doing is we're completing the circuit again, so that love that you've put out now goes to creating for them, and then they take that love that they have because you allowed them to provide for their family or their community, and they send that love back to you in the form of meditation. So you actually get something back, right? And then, if we can prove that makes you more abundant and more healthy and more happy and more profitable in your business, then you can give more love, right? So that's the idea. We kind of build this circular economy that's fueled with love.
Have you thought about measuring it? Actually trying to measure this as an experiment to see how this is going to be tricky. But hey, there's nothing impossible on this show. We can go down the rabbit hole.
Well,
imagine measuring something like that.
Yeah, so we've built a technology platform which essentially at the first level of the project where we're at the moment, we can just measure time and presence, right? So we know that this love farmer meditated for however long, and they were fully present. We do something with their thumbs on the screen. So we actually, they're not like, they're focused, they're doing something. We've got like an area where we be sort of, not policing them, but I guess just creating a safe, quiet space that's almost like a sacred space, which it is. They're going there to meditate. But the technology now is catching up. There's devices that can actually measure your frequency. So as we get more and more momentum behind it, the idea is that we will actually give love farmers who are working enough, who are generating enough love and have been consistent, we'll give them a device which will actually measure their frequency. So we now have time, presence, and how close they are to the frequency of love, right? Yeah. And the idea is that over time we can give them the opportunity to earn more as they get better at dropping into the frequency of love faster and for longer periods of time. So it gives them a chance to progress, just like you would through the corporate ladder or something. You can become like a beginner center of love, and you can work your way right up to like a master, who can literally just transmit pure love across the side, to the other side of the world to someone that needs it.
Wow. See, this is moving into the quantum. And working within the quantum level. This is just a change. The age of Aquarius, like I said, the age of Aquarius, moving out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius, is that it's going to be a totally new beginning, an awakening. within the human consciousness and global consciousness. It's going to take a little bit. Right now, it's crazy, but we have to face that. It's like a storm. There's no such thing as violence in nature. It's just that it's that transition in between the two that kind of shakes things up a little bit. But I gotta say, we may have to do another show on this.
Yeah, one of my friends actually is a top mathematician and also a quantum physicist, well known around the world. Yeah. And he was explaining to me what you were saying about the changing from one frequency to another. And if you look at it like cymatics, have you ever seen where you pump a sound or a frequency through sand or water and it makes the patterns?
Yeah.
What happens is when you change the frequency, which is what we're doing now on the planet, it's the process we're going through, it doesn't just immediately go to the new beautiful shape. It first breaks down into chaos.
Yeah.
And then it reassembles. And what he explained using mathematics, advanced mathematics, he showed me over time that, we're essentially in an 18-year period where it's broken down into chaos and it's reassembling. And the timeline for that breakdown to reassembling is from 2012 to 2030. So
wow,
we're in a really important time because we're deciding what that new frequency is going to be and what kind of world we're going to live in. Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of that time period.
We are,
That's good, man. That's reassuring.
And things will happen. I think things that just happen a lot faster. Have you read The Power versus Force? It's a great book. I forget the name of the author, but I think someone vibrating in the state of love was about 120,000 times more powerful than someone vibrating in fear and shame, or guilt and shame actually were the two lowest. So it's nice because you don't have to hit a tipping point of 51% of people. You literally need to have one person vibrating in love for every 90,000 in fear, and you can start to tip the scale. So as we get closer to that time, I think we're accelerating the timeline of this happening with everything, like every discussion like this, every project like this, every conscious thought of, how we get someone to vibrate in a place of love. We're really able to shift it. It actually makes it a lot more motivating when you're doing stuff like this, when you understand those numbers, because it doesn't feel so impossible and so hard to get us back on track when you know the science of it.
Yeah. The science is awesome though. I mean, I'm intrigued. I want to know more, and keep me posted when you start doing the not observations. When it comes to the you're familiar with the slit experiment. Just by observing the experiment at a quantum level changes the outcome of the experiment.
Yeah.
So it's like
absolutely.
Maybe that's something too. It's like, okay, maybe certain things will happen. You can have like, what do you call it, control group. So you would have one experiment where there is no observation to it. It's just happening. So there's no observer. But then you have another control experiment to where it's like, okay, now we want to observe this, see what's actually happening as the process goes forward, and see how that shift changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we kind of creating that because as like, let's use an example, but let's say that you're a farmer and you farm apples, right? If you plug into the experiment, you can stream love to your crop from the love farms in a way that we can measure. So what happens to the crop that receives love? Like, we don't know yet because nobody's ever done it, but what if can the crop grow 10, 20% faster? Could the apples be more nutritionally dense? Could they grow larger? All these things we'll be able to measure, right?
Yeah.
But the difference is we're actually able to say how much love they got as well. And so that's where I think it gets really, really exciting, because the observing part is that, and all the other businesses, the other apple farmers that aren't streaming love are just, that's the control, right? So we actually get to see, and that's where we can start to shift the needle. If we can show data that's literally scientifically backed that your crop will grow better. You will make more money if you have love in your apple. So start lifting people out of poverty. That's where we want to get it to, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Oof. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I wanna know more, man. We definitely gotta keep me posted as we move forward and stuff like that. I'd like to get involved. Definitely. Wanna
Amazing. Right.
This radio networks. Definitely let us know how we can sponsor and how we can get out there and spread the word too. That's get the word
Yeah,
out.
I love that, man. We make you the first radio station streaming love while people around the world are streaming your content, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about, man. It's all consciousness, the high expanding of consciousness and reawaken to love.
Yeah, and the possibilities for where it can go I get excited when I think about it, because although it's a long way from where we're at now in terms of getting the momentum and the people on board, you know, if I know for a fact, if I was suffering from a terminal disease or cancer or something or I had someone in my family that I loved, the fact that we're able to stream huge amounts of love to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I know I would want to receive it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would as well. So I love the thought of what we can, if we can shift the needle and show that we can help people recover or feel better or have miracles happen. You know, this is where it gets exciting, because once you let that genie out of the bottle, it's game over.
Meditation, prayer, it's the power of that in and of itself. You know, meditation is triggering the love. Prayer is triggering the love. It's turning it on. It's the on and off switch. And
it's taking that time to disconnect and just let the clutter go and remember that you are love, really, basically, right? Your connection to source, to God, whatever it is for whoever, whatever the belief system is, it's that, that's what I believe you're doing when you're meditating. You're giving yourself a chance to connect back to that. And if you do that and then send it to someone that needs it, can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Connect to source. Yeah. Aidan, before we go, what would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience today?
Look, I would love to encourage people, if this resonates with you and what we're trying to do. We can't, by its very nature of it, the power is in numbers, collectively getting together and loving and moving something like this forward. So if it resonates, I just encourage you to hit us up on the website, get in touch, where we're taking individuals and businesses into the experiment for fairly nominal, like monthly donation, which goes straight to the communities. You can be streaming love into your life 24/7. So, we can't do it without you. We need a community around this. And whilst it's small at the moment, the community that's gathering around it are really, really incredible people, as you can imagine. They're people that want to be streaming love into their lives 24 hours a day and helping others at the same time. So it's going to be a good community to be part of, and I just encourage people to reach out and find out more and join us for this journey as we start to try and show the world the power that love really does have, and how we can use it to change our lives and the lives of others and the planet at large.
Yeah, it is truly a global community. Getting back to love, getting back to source, which is source. I mean, love is source. I feel is source energy. The cosmic field, the quantum field. We're conscious beings, and that's our source energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aidan, blessings, my friend. Blessings.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's definitely continue another time and keep me posted. And again, for those who are listening, how they can find you.
Just www.theworldsgreatestexperiment.com, and email details and contact details on there as well. I'd be very happy to hear from anyone.
Yeah. Definitely, man. It's all about love, man. We have the words The word love is in so many songs. We use it so many times. There might be some listeners and audience members, man, that's I think it might be a real sappy thing, but it's come on. I wake up. It's like,
you look at every major song that stood the test of time, the religious teachings, they all say the same. They always say love. It's love, right? And we can get rid of some of this thinking that we have, like around, like the whole idea of you can't buy love. To me, it's like, I get why people say it, but why not? Why can't I pay someone who's got a lot of love and who needs some love to look after them? Why can't I pay them to send love to my sick mom, or to my friend who's having a hard time, or to my customers who sustain me by buying my product every month? Like, why not? It's love can be different things for different people depending on what they need. If you're starving, love is food on the table, right?
Yeah. We're so stuck on the word that we lose traction of what it really means. It's an energy, and the energy could be different to anybody. It's a perception and how it's received. And sent. It's amazing. The potential.
Not everyone's praying for the same thing, right? They're all praying for what they need, and that's the manifestation of love in their life that they need, is that thing. And so that's I think an important thing to remember when we go into this, is that love doesn't necessarily mean the love of a partner or love of a friend. It can be all sorts of things, and we need to be open to that if we're going to use it as a currency that actually changes the world.
Yeah, because when you say love farming, people are like, all right, did we jump back in the 60s or something? What's going on? Man. Aidan, blessings, namaste, my friend.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very, very welcome. Thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. We will see you next time.